What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 182 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to start what I believe is going to be an entire month of indie reviews. And basically, what I mean by indie is something that is not Marvel and not DC. Image Comics and Dark Horse Comics, those were huge industry giants in the 1990s, but they are nowhere near as huge as Marvel or DC. So I count Image Comics and Dark Horse Comics as indie companies. So I am going to do a variety of different indie comic book reviews for the month of July, starting with Ghostbusters, Ghost Busted. This is from Tokyo Pop. This is a Ghostbusters manga that is about 6 chapters long. I don't know if this is something that originated in Japan and then was translated into English, because usually in most of the manga that I have read, when you open it up to what would be the front cover, if it was an American comic book, they have this big warning saying, stop, you're reading this from the back of the book. You have to start at what would be the back if it was an American comic book, and then go backwards if it was an American comic book, because that's how they read it in Japan. This does not have that. This does not have anything saying like, hey, we're keeping it the way that it was originally presented in Japan and we're just translating the dialogue into English. And also, one of the writers is an American, so I'm assuming that this was just an American comic that was made to look visually like a manga, which that doesn't bother me, but I know some people who are much bigger manga fans than I am, and if they saw, hey, there's a Ghostbusters manga, that looks really cool, and then they bought it and they found out it's not really a Ghostbusters manga, they would be a little bit upset. So fair warning about that right off the bat. Some of the people that were involved here, I don't know any of these names, but again, others who are big manga fans, they might recognize some of these names. You've got the story by Nathan Johnson and Matt Yamashita, and then art by Chrissy Delk, Maximo V. Lorenzo, Michael Shelfer, and Nate Watson. So most of those names sound like people who live in America, or at least people who are not Japanese. There was one name there that kind of sounded Japanese, so I'm assuming that this was something that was just done in America in concordance with Tokyo Pop, the company, and was presented as a Ghostbusters manga, but is not necessarily something that was originally an actual manga. So basically, there are 2 stories in here that are not part of this arc, and then the whole middle of the book is this little storyline that I like really a lot. Basically, the 2 stories that are not part of the arc, I like them a lot less than I like the arc itself. I like the arc. The 2 stories that are not connected to that storyline, I don't like them very much at all. The first one is the Ghostbusters. They have been hired by this producer of this Broadway play, and his play that he has been putting on is being haunted by, we find out, this dead play critic. I couldn't think of the word for film. Not a film critic. I guess it's just a drama critic. And basically, this critic thinks that this producer is a hack and that he is all style and no substance. And the Ghostbusters, instead of just busting this ghost like they normally would, they decide to try and reason with him. So instead of busting him, they are going to take over directing this play, because a few of the actors quit and the director quit. So they are going to take over all of that, and they are going to make the play a lot more like what the critic would want. And then at the end of the issue, it's all big, happy, fun time. It really doesn't feel tonally consistent with what I think of as the Ghostbusters, because it doesn't involve the Ghostbusters busting ghosts. It involves the Ghostbusters talking with the ghosts and acting like they're not terrorizing the living, which is what this ghost is doing. It's really just kind of stupid. I did not like that issue at all. Starting in the second issue of this book, though, we get this little storyline where the mayor's assistant from Ghostbusters 2 is basically forging an alliance with a group of ghosts to try and get revenge on the Ghostbusters. It works for them because then the Ghostbusters will stop trying to bust all the ghosts who live in New York City, and it works for this guy because he can no longer get any job anywhere in New York City because the Ghostbusters basically ruined his career. And I really like this storyline a lot. It gives us a really good Egon issue. It gives us a really good Ray issue. It kind of puts Venkman a little bit in the background, which I'm okay with, because he was always kind of the A-lister in both of the movies. He was presented more as the main character in both of them than really any of the other Ghostbusters. So I like that we get a little bit more emphasis on Ray and Egon here. I really love the Egon issue. I like the Ray issue quite a bit too. Winston doesn't get a whole lot to do, which is unfortunate, and that's true in the issue with the play also. Like over half of that issue, he's not there, and then suddenly he comes in and says, hey guys, why am I watching the firehouse while you guys are here? And they don't really have an answer for him. It's just like, hey, come on, we need your help. So that storyline is really great. And then we get one more issue issue that is better than the one with the play, but it's still not great. Basically, we find out that there's this fashion designer who has somehow forged an alliance with Gozer's concubine. We find out that basically she is using this demon god creature to try and suck the life force out of all the women who buy her clothes designs. And the Ghostbusters, they have to combat this through low fashion. So they start giving away all of their Ghostbusters jumpsuits to everyone, and somehow that weakens Gozer's concubine. They do end up combating the ghost, which is a little bit better than the issue where they don't fight the ghost, but it's really dumb that they fight the ghost using fashion. I kind of think it would have been fine if they just used their proton packs. That's what they're for. You use them to fight ghosts. Again, I think that is just kind of a silly issue. Not as bad as the first issue, but still not great. And then that issue ends in a really weird place where we see the mayor's assistant just out of nowhere. He's at a homeless shelter getting free soup, and he's complaining about the food. And that was really weird because that issue really wasn't part of the storyline that's in the middle of the book. And then all of a sudden we see the mayor's assistant over here at a homeless shelter. So overall, I really like about 3/4 of this book. I really like the storyline in the middle where the mayor's assistant has got this anti-Ghostbusters team that is fighting the Ghostbusters. I like that quite a bit, and I like some of the background that we get for Egon. I like the storyline that we get with Ray. I really like that whole story. I thought that was a really good issue, a really good couple of issues there. Unfortunately, I just didn't like the beginning and end of this book, and it doesn't make this book feel very cohesive. It makes it feel a little jarring that we've got 6 issues here, and a couple of these issues really don't have anything to do with the main storyline of this book. But overall, if you are a big fan of the Ghostbusters movies, and maybe you're looking to dip your toes in Ghostbusters outside of the movies, but you don't really know where to start, I would say that this is a pretty good place to at least give it a shot. Don't keep your expectations too high. This is not something that is just going to blow your mind, but if you like the Ghostbusters movies, I think you will at least like the middle portion of this book. I know I did quite a bit. So those are my thoughts on Ghostbusters Ghost Busted. You can't tell that that's the title of this book because mine is a former library copy, but that is the name of this book. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with another indie graphic novel. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.